My sister and I are two cat demons. After accidentally entering the imperial palace, she became the emperor's most favored concubine. I, on the other hand, was carried away from the palace by the mighty general. For 3 years, I was cherished and cherished. Then the general brought back a woman from the border, and the emperor was furious with my sister for the first time. In the middle of the night, my sister leaped onto my roof and said, Mion, I've absorbed enough dragon energy. Can you run? I neatly wrapped up the gold, silver, and jewelry, threw them onto my back, and nodded, if you go, I'll go. Suddenly, the concubine passed away, and the general's mansion was in mourning. Word spread that the emperor's wrath had left millions dead. To find his beloved wife, the general led a massive army to lay siege to the imperial city. The world was about to fall. My sister and I are two cat demons who depend on each other for survival in the mountains. To cultivate, we agreed to descend the mountains to seek opportunities. Because I ate the koi in the imperial garden, I fell into the water. Terrified, my sister transformed into a human form to save me. Who would have thought that Emperor Songjin happened to come strolling through the imperial gardens that day? With just one glance, he appointed my sister a noble concubine. My cultivation was poor, and I was soaked in water. I was so oppressed by the dragon energy of the emperor that I dared not stand up. A passing general, Liang Jingyun, took me into his arms and led me out of the mansion, becoming the general's wife of an unknown origin. In the middle of the night, I took off my clothes and leaped onto the roof with a cat-like step. I trotted along the wall of the general's mansion to the southwest corner of the palace wall where we had agreed to meet. On the way, I encountered a lost butterfly and chased it for a while. When I arrived, my sister, Li Susu, was already sitting upright on the wall, lazily licking the cracks between her claws. Why are you so slow? I sighed. Don't mention it, Liang Jingyun is going back to the capital. And I raised my eyes to my sister's face halfway through my words, hesitated, and finally said it. The messenger who returned with the news said Liang Jingyun brought back a woman from the northern border. I looked at the portrait, and it's exactly the same as the one you showed me last time. The portrait hung in a heavily guarded secret room in the imperial study. It's said that when Songjin was a hostage in the northern border, he was bullied, and that woman had saved his life. My sister paused, pressing her soft paw against the wall, scratching it irritably. When can we enter the capital? I flicked my tail. 3 days at the earliest. My sister frowned and looked up at me. I don't want to compete with other women for men. We civet cats don't have that kind of experience. I twitched my ears, curious. So what do you mean? I don't want to stay here. I've been down the mountain for 3 years, confined to this tiny place. Indeed. It completely contradicts the free-spirited nature of our civet cat clan. Songjin and Liang Jingyun were nice to us before, but now that there's someone else, they probably won't be any kinder to us. I nodded. Wherever you go, I'll go. I'll do whatever you say. My sister raised her paw and stroked my cat's head. Okay, pack your things for 3 days. After we meet that woman, we'll leave. Then, as if on a whim, she paused with her paw. Mion, you won't forget this time just because you're having fun, will you? I blushed immediately, lashing my tail rapidly, trying to explain myself. Absolutely not. Trust me. My sister nodded reluctantly. Okay, you mustn't forget. With that, she stood up, jumped off the palace wall, and ran towards the imperial concubine's palace. I, on the other hand, simply scrambled back along the rooftop. Entering the bedroom, I took the key to the general's mansion's small treasury that Liang Jingyun had given me and went inside. This one's good too. This one's expensive and light, perfect for taking away. I'd chosen 3 nights in a row, and I still had to deal with matters at the mansion during the day. TSK, it's time to run. If I stay like this, I'll be a cat who sleeps 10 hours a day. Even if I am an energetic monkey, I can't resist it. Fortunately, Liang Jingyun is coming back today. I brought everyone in the mansion to greet him at the door. It has been more than half a year since I last saw Liang Jingyun. You know what, I still miss him. I raised my voice and called his name happily. Liang Jing. But the next moment, I didn't think so. Liang Jingyun got off the horse, glanced at me, and turned back to lift the curtain of the sedan chair. Missin, we're here. A snow-white and slender hand stretched out from the sedan chair, followed by a figure as weak as a willow in the wind, and finally a charming face. Thank you, General Liang. When she turned around and saw my fierce face, she exclaimed and fell back into Liang Jingyun's arms. Liang Jingyun held her and asked with concern, Are you hurt? And Yura shook her head, glanced at me, then timidly lowered her head. It was just that maidservant who was a bit fierce. I got scared. Liang Jingyun looked up and saw me frown slightly. My anger suddenly flared up. Liang Jingyun. Let her go. Who is she calling a maidservant? Liang Jingyun always did everything for me. He always said I was the apple of his eye, a gift from heaven. In the 3 years since I came down from the mountain, I've been a tyrant in the general's mansion, and no one has ever dared to confront me. This is the first time someone has dared to deliberately call me a maidservant in front of Liang Jingyun. I thought Liang Jingyun would help me, but he just whispered impatiently, Mian, stop it. Making a fuss. I'm making a fuss. Everyone in the mansion watched from the doorway, watching the woman they had been mistress of for 3 years being humiliated by someone they hadn't even brought in. And Liang Jingyun sided with her. Missin, let me help you go back and rest first. Liang Jingyun thoughtfully extended his hand. And Yura blushed and agreed. As she passed me, there was a smug look in her eyes. Ah! I'm furious. No tabby cat can tolerate someone provoking her in person. I suddenly thrust my hand out, blocking the two of them. Liang Jingyun's eyes widened with anger. Liang Jingyun, I'm asking you, am I still the mistress of this mansion? I pointed at Enyiru and said word by word, I'm telling you, I won't let this woman in. Liang Jingyun gave me a complicated look, and after a moment he said, Li Mian, I'm still unmarried. My heart sank, as if a fishbone had stuck in my throat. It was stuck, unable to move up or down, and it felt uncomfortable. My eyes instantly reddened. You're saying you didn't marry me? What happened to me when I risked my life to save him, and proposed in a dilapidated temple? A flicker of heartache flashed in Liang Jingyun's eyes. He let go of Enyiru's hand, and took a step forward. I thought he was going to hug me, but he leaned close to my ear and whispered, a cat slave, you want to be the mistress of the general's mansion? I shuddered as if I'd fallen into an icy cave. Watching him leave with Enyiru, I was so angry I couldn't speak. I returned to my room in a rage, thinking that Liang Jingyun, with his beautiful wife in his arms, wouldn't even think of me. So I changed my form, jumped over the wall, and fled into the palace. After searching for a long time, I couldn't find any trace of my sister. Instead, I saw a maid hurriedly walking at the door of the imperial study. Could it be in the imperial study? I quietly sneaked under the window of the imperial study, climbed up a tree, and looked inside. Sure enough, there she was. My sister was standing against the wall behind the table, the darkroom door wide open. She held the portrait, tears streaming down her face. Who is she? Song Jin stood there, clenching his hands. Even if you tear it up, what does it matter? She's already returned to the capital, and the portrait is long meaningless. My sister's face paled, and she stubbornly asked again, I only ask you one question. In these 3 years of favor, have you ever been truly sincere to me? Song Jin glanced at my sister's face and finally said coldly, never. What a pig. He used to dote on my sister. My sister loved Western silk, saying it was bright, so Song Jin spent a fortune to hang it all over her walls. Although my sister later had her claws sharpened, when Song Jin found out, he only praised my sister, saying, you shaved it beautifully. I think it looks much better than before. Those words made even me feel guilty. My sister liked soft fur, so Song Jin opened his private warehouse and let her choose freely. He even sewed the fur of the prey he hunted after ascending the throne into blankets. The bright gray fur could cover the entire imperial concubine's bedroom. And now, before he'd even met that woman and Yiru, he'd already changed his attitude toward my sister. Scum. My sister was taken back to the palace by the palace servants. Song Jin stood there for a long time, her eyes heavy with pain. Tsk, a belated display of affection for a dog. Paw paw paw, even a dog wouldn't even notice. Not to mention my sister, even I was furious. And I was twice as furious. I climbed down the tree and returned to the Liang mansion. Sure enough, Liang Jingyun hadn't even come. I could only channel my anger into motivation and frantically stuff my bag with gold, silver, and jewelry. If I sold them all, it would be enough for the tabby cats on our mountain to eat dried fish for a lifetime. Halfway through my thoughts, I suddenly remembered, the mountain was gone, and only my sisters and I were left in the civet cat lineage. For it was midnight again. The master of the mansion had returned, and I'd lost my title of madam. Everyone was busy trying to curry favor with the new misson. Humph, after 3 years together, not even one person came to ask if I wanted to eat. A soft clattering sound came from the roof as someone peeled back the tiles. I sniffed in grievance and whispered, "Sister." She peeled back the 2 flaps again, transformed into her true form, and leaped down. Mion, I've absorbed enough dragon energy, and I've left a fake body over there. Are you coming with me, or staying for a while? Sister had often heard me praise Liang Jingyun, and seeing my grim expression, she assumed I was reluctant to let him go. I shook my head vigorously. No. Let's go together. She frowned, glancing around. Liang Jingyun came back, didn't he live with you? It would have been fine if she hadn't said it, but the mention of it infuriated her even more. The woman in Song Jin's painting is in the mansion right now, and Liang Jingyun is completely obedient to her, and he said that a cat slave like me wasn't worthy of being the mistress of the general's mansion. He supported me back then, and I sacrificed half my cultivation to save him. He promised me his life in the ruined temple, and only then did I agree to marry him. Sister, he's changed his mind. I tugged at my sister's skirt, sobbing pitifully. The tabletop clattered, startling me. A closer look revealed my sister's fury. As expected, all mortals are so heartless. Song Jin is like that, and Liang Jingyun is too. She reached out and patted my head, her tone filled with disappointment. You're already stupid, slow at cultivation, and someone tricked you out of half your cultivation. Now you can't even create a fake body, right? I nodded aggrievedly, yes. Despite her anger, my sister reached out and cast a spell by the bed. Suddenly, a girl who looked exactly like me, with a round face and cat-like eyes, sat down by the bed. I pointed at the fake body's belly in surprise and asked, "How come you're still full?" My sister patted her head in disdain. "What do you mean, full?" I was confused. Huh? A gleam flashed in my sister's eyes. "Since he won't acknowledge your identity, I'll give him a great gift on your behalf." Although I didn't understand why, I knew everything my sister said was right. "I'll do as you say." After my sister left, I was starving and pushed the door open to leave. In the past, everyone was always calling each other madam, but now the door was empty, truly desolate. Ugh, snobs. I walked to the kitchen door, hoping to grab some snacks. But when I looked up, I saw Yiru, accompanied by someone, chatting and laughing with the chef. A quick glance revealed a plate of my favorite fried small yellow croaker on the chopping board. Because I loved it, Liang Jingyun once ordered the kitchen to always have a plate of it for me. One time, seeing me enjoying my meal, he even said, "You greedy little cat, you only have eyes for the fish. You won't even look at me." Holding the fish's tail in my mouth, I retorted, "Who told you you're not as delicious as the yellow croaker?" With a dark look in his eyes, he carried me to the table and bit my lip. He said venomously, "Isn't it tasty?" Try it again, little cat. Seeing the yellow croaker, I naturally assumed it was reserved for me and reached out to grab it. And Yura's maid tried to grab it, but she was nowhere near as quick as the cat, and in the end, the dish of yellow croaker ended up in my hands. I raised my chin and looked at her with disdain. You're not worthy enough to try to steal from me. Fighting a cat for fish. Too much. And Yura looked grim, but she feigned a smile. Sister loves it, so I should have given it to you, but my family lives in the northern border, and my mother loves to make small yellow croaker. I haven't been home in ages, and I just wanted to taste the flavors of home. I frowned, annoyed by her rambling. What's it to me? The maid and chef looked at her sympathetically. Are they all just stupid? I started to walk out with the small yellow croaker, but as soon as I took a step, Yura grabbed my sleeve. If you want to eat it, ask him to make another. Before I could finish my sentence, Yura shoved me hard, sending the small yellow croaker flying everywhere, and she hit the door frame. I was stunned. Then, as if pushed by the air, Yura fell backward, nearly falling into the fire. I had almost stood still when a figure suddenly flashed behind me, bumping into me as they passed. My face rubbed against the door frame, and blood instantly appeared. It hurt. But that person not only did not apologize, but instead quickly hugged Yura into his arms. Missin, are you okay? Liang Jingyun nervously helped Yura up and asked softly. What could happen to her? She pushed me first. But Yura snuggled in his arms as if she was scared. I'm fine. General Liang, go see Miss Mian. He said he was trying to persuade people, but there was a flicker of fear in his eyes when he looked at me. Liang Jingyun looked up at me, with uncontrollable anger in his eyes. Li Mian, are you in trouble again? Meow meow meow. It's none of my business. But when I looked at Liang Jingyun's angry expression, my heart was sour and depressed, and a string of swear words stopped at my lips, and I couldn't say a word. Yura tugged at Liang Jingyun's sleeve and said timidly, back at home, my mother always made me small yellow croaker, and it made me feel uncomfortable. That's why Miss Mian was angry. It's not Miss Mian's fault. I didn't stand firm. She treated me like this because she cared about the general. The more she spoke, the darker Liang Jingyun's face darkened. Apologize. My voice trembled with anger. You want me to apologize to her? It's just a plate of small yellow croaker. I suddenly shouted at him, Liang Jingyun. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I looked at him with red eyes. It's just a plate of small yellow croaker. A sour pain spread through my veins, spreading throughout my body. Liang Jingyun looked at me coldly, a flicker of heartache in his eyes, and then his tone became more emphatically disappointed. Li Mian, can you please stop making trouble? Looking at the small yellow croaker on the ground, my heart felt like a gaping hole. It was like that year when I returned to the mountains and found my home gone. That night, I silently climbed over the wall and rubbed my sister's chin. Sister, let's leave. The next morning, Song Jin personally rode his horse to fetch Yura into the palace with great fanfare. Liang Jingyun stood at the gate for a long moment, then turned and asked, Where's the madam? The servant pondered for a moment and replied, She's been locked in her room since yesterday and hasn't come out. He frowned slightly, Hasn't she eaten yet? The servant nodded. Liang Jingyun was silent for a long time. Well, with her temper, she should go hungry for a couple of meals to teach her a lesson. He walked through the door and took a few more steps. Go to the kitchen and get some freshly fried small yellow croaker. I'll deliver it myself, the servant replied, then hesitantly asked, So, will you still call me madam? No. A fake body, fed with a drop of my essence and blood, had the same appearance and personality as me, was magically imbued with the ability to be remotely controlled. At this moment, she sat in bed, holding her belly in a daze. Liang Jingyun entered, carrying a small yellow croaker and a bowl of soup. His sister, who was outside the capital, cast a spell, and the fake form moved, saying sarcastically, General Liang, aren't you going to accompany your mission? Liang Jingyun placed the food on the table, your favorite fried small yellow croaker. Give it to your mission, I dare not eat it. Liang Jingyun's jaw tightened, his eyes brimming with anger. Li Mian. How long are you going to keep up this fuss? Haven't I given you enough these past few years? Fuss? Who's fussing? The fake form rose and walked towards Liang Jingyun, her eyes bloodshot. Liang Jingyun, that year, you were investigating a case for the emperor and were poisoned and shot with arrows. I used half of my cultivation to save you in the dilapidated temple. You swore to the city god back then, pledging your life to me as your wife, and I would never betray you. Do you remember? The dilapidated temple of that year was ventilated, with only a half-burned candle and him, covered in blood. Liang Jingyun took my hand and said with a smile, I will give my life as a betrothal gift and my blood as a wedding dress. I betroth you, the raccoon slave Mian, to be my wife forever and ever. If I ever break this oath, I will be struck by lightning and die with my heart hollowed out. Later, he brought me back to the capital. Everyone in the capital knew the general's wife had a mysterious origin, and was held in the general's heart. A maid in the mansion asked me when Liang Jingyun and I would hold our wedding banquet. I didn't know, so I ran to ask him. He used the excuse that cat demons were rare, and that a large-scale display would be too dangerous for me. At the time, I was grateful that Liang Jingyun cared so much about me. Now I understand. What danger? What protection? It was just me, a cat slave, unworthy of being his general's wife. Seeing I remained silent, he coaxed me softly, be good, and I'll have them fry small yellow croaker for you every day, okay? As if eating a small yellow croaker would instantly make me forget everything. The fake body flung his hand away, glaring at him. Liang Jingyun, I, Li Mian, am not a pet you kick when I dislike her and hug when I like her. Liang Jingyun lost his patience, his brows etched with annoyance. So what do you want? General Liang, don't worry about what happens to me from now on. The fake body turned and tried to leave, but Liang Jingyun impatiently grabbed his arm. I didn't mean to be violent with you, but you just wouldn't listen. He pressed the fake body onto the table, picked up the soup bowl next to it, and fed the entire bowl into her mouth without dropping a drop. The petite figure struggled hard. What did you feed me? Liang Jingyun's expression was cold, just some little things that made you lose all your magic power. His big hands pinched the round face, and his voice was as cold as ice. Mian, even if you don't want to, you can only stay by my side in this life. Except for the status, I can give you everything. The fake body gritted its teeth and cursed him, Liang Jingyun, you are mentally ill. Liang Jingyun pressed the person down and pinched my chin. Just as he was about to kiss me, he suddenly stopped, your face. There was a noisy footsteps outside the door, and then the Imperial guards rushed in, interrupting the conversation. Liang Jingyun let go of the person, looking unhappy. What's going on? The leading general said urgently. The Imperial concubine and Missen have both been poisoned. They need the elixir from the civet cat demon's belly as a medicine inducer. I heard there's a Miss Li in the general's mansion. His Majesty wants me to bring someone into the palace. Liang Jingyun looked up suddenly. Through his fake body's eyes, I clearly saw him fall silent for a moment before nodding. I'll go with you. Liang Jingyun. Are you going to help them kill me? Even knowing he'd changed, I couldn't help but feel a little breathless at this moment. Once a demon's elixir is removed, it's certain death. He frowned. I'm not killing you. I just need your elixir to save someone. Remove the elixir, save someone, just one. Liang Jingyun stared at me intently, then spoke coldly after a long pause. It can survive. I've tried many times. The soldiers were about to come and take the person away, but the fake body cried out, begging Liang Jingyun to save her. Liang Jingyun, I'm going to die. My fingertips were clenched white on his shirt, nearly breaking it. I'm pregnant with your child, I'm pregnant with your child. But the man bent down and whispered my name. Just when I thought he was going to save me, he said, "How can a human and a cat demon have a child?" Mion, stop lying. You're lucky to be able to save Miss, and don't be afraid, I will definitely save your life. With that, he unleashed his clenched fingers, facing my despair. Let's go. 10 in the bedroom, and Yuru leaned delicately in Song Jin's arms, coughing occasionally. The fake body was roughly forced to its knees. Liang Jingyun ignored him, and took a step forward. Is Missin okay? Song Jin's eyes darkened. The imperial concubine, in order to win favor, fed herself and Yuru the same poison. Did she really think I wouldn't do anything to her? And Yuru coughed twice more, looking at Liang Jingyun with tears in her eyes. I'm afraid. I'm about to die. Liang Jingyun frowned. Didn't you say you'd use the cat demon's inner elixir as a medicine? Then, he looked at Song Jin and said, "How did your majesty know there was a cat demon in my family?" And Yura glanced at me and wiped away tears that hadn't fallen. Don't blame Brother Jin. He was worried about me, but seeing how worried he was, I remembered you saying you had a cat demon at home for a long time, so I let it slip. I didn't expect that cat demon would be Miss Mion. Just let me die. Don't save me. With that, he pretended to bang his head against the pillar. Before he could take a step, his feet gave way and he fell into Liang Jingyun's arms. Song Jin took the person and gave the fake body a cold glance. It's not your fault. It's just that these monsters are not my kind. Damn it. General Liang won't be reluctant, will he? Liang Jingyun was silent for a moment, then shook his head. Her inner elixir can save people, it is her blessing, not to mention that it is the order of your majesty, so I naturally have no objections. Song Jin helped Yura sit back on the bed, fed her a sip of water, and gave the order without even looking at her. Drag her out, open her inner elixir and use it as medicine for Missin. Yes. Seeing that person approaching the fake body, I pressed down on my sister's claws. Since he wants to kill me, then, let him come in person. My sister looked at me with heartache, and after a while, nodded. The fake body, with its head down, suddenly sneered and looked up. General Liang is so loyal to the emperor, I believe he is willing to serve your majesty in person. He looked straight at me, and to show his loyalty, he finally said in a cold voice, "Okay." 11 The fake body was tied to the wooden frame, and Liang Jingyun stood in front of her. Mion, I will be quick and won't hurt you too much. The fake body only uttered 2 words stubbornly, "Scum." The tip of the knife should be painful when it pierces the body, but I didn't feel it, and the fake body naturally didn't feel it either. Only Liang Jingyun looked at the bulging belly, sweat on his forehead, as if he had noticed something, and the hand holding the knife kept shaking. What is General Liang waiting for? Song Jin spoke. Liang Jingyun gritted his teeth, looking at me with red eyes. I'm sorry, Mion. Blood flowed from the tip of the knife to the handle, then from the handle all over his hands, and finally flowed to his feet, staining the area red. He split the belly's texture and found the bloody, newly formed civet cat cub, its fur barely fully grown, lying inside, holding a brown-red inner elixir in its arms. General Liang, who killed people without blinking an eye on the battlefield, was shaking terribly for the first time. His breathing was rapid and his eyes were full of blood. It is. The fake body's face was as pale as paper, and it leaned forward slightly, telling him with a smile, "Your child. You killed him with your own hands." Liang Jingyun's blood-stained hands trembled madly. He reached out like a madman to push the little civet cat in, but there was too much blood. The fake body, with its inner elixir taken away, slowly closed its eyes. The cub's body temperature gradually cooled in his hands, leaving only the inner elixir, shining brightly on the plate. His face was pale, sweat, tears and blood mixed together. He knelt in front of Song Jin in a mess and offered the inner elixir. Under his eyelids, a deep hatred ran deep. "Your Majesty, I feel unwell, so I'll be leaving now." "Well, go ahead. Song Jin took the inner elixir, glanced at it, and instructed the eunuch, "Go and brew the antidote for Missen." But with the medicine in hand, the imperial physician was once again stumped. "Your Majesty. Your Majesty, this inner elixir is only enough for one person, Missen and the imperial concubine, you see." Song Jin frowned. Before he could say anything, and Yura spoke sensibly, "Give it to the imperial concubine. Even though she was the one who gave her the poison, I simply can't bear to see her die. As for me, I'm probably not blessed." Song Jin closed his eyes. "Give it to Missen." The imperial physician spoke tentatively, "As for the imperial concubine, if she didn't take the poison herself, imprison her for 3 days as a warning to others. If she did, she deserves it." He had decided that his sister was just pretending, and hadn't actually taken the poison. But he didn't know that if his death wasn't complete, how could he truly escape death? 12. The inner elixir was taken away, and before the imperial physician had finished preparing the medicine, flames shot up from outside the imperial concubine's palace. Song Jin abruptly jumped from his bed and demanded, "What's going on out there?" The young eunuch rushed in and immediately knelt down. The imperial concubine said there was only 1 dose of poison, and she took it herself. "Now that your Majesty has chosen, she won't accompany you." Song Jin's pupils shrank sharply. "Where's she?" Dead. Song Jin stumbled, nearly falling. "Dead? I don't believe it. She must be throwing a tantrum and wants me to comfort her. I won't go see her. She's so willful and yet she wants me to comfort her. Arrogant. He cursed word by word, his body trembling uncontrollably. His hands clenched into fists, and his eyes were bloodshot. "What else did she say?" The young eunuch trembled with fear. "I heard from the imperial concubine's maid that she took poison. It was extremely toxic, and her face turned a horrible purple. The imperial concubine said she was beautiful, and she didn't want His Majesty to see her like this, so she set fire to the palace and threw herself on fire." Song Jin's face was frighteningly cold. The young eunuch was shaking like a sieve. And Yuru tentatively said one word, "Jin. Get out." And Yuru was stunned. "Brother Song Jin." Song Jin turned abruptly, his eyes bloodshot, staring at her word by word. "I told you to get out, don't you understand?" The imperial physician had just finished preparing the medicine, and pushed the door open when he kicked it open. The medicine bowl was overturned and spilled all over him. 13. A gray, striped paw pressed against the mirror in front of me. My sister flicked her tail and touched my forehead. "Stop looking. We'll be back." My sister and I sat side by side on the mountaintop, gazing at the towering, shadowy imperial city where we'd lived for 3 years. "Yes, we'll be back. Sister, let's go." 2 tabby cats trotted briskly down the hilltop outside the capital. The world was vast, a rush toward freedom. But we still had things to do. 14. Shortly after we left, the entire Xinjiang was in turmoil. Song Jin frantically searched the palace. Even after finding a charred replica, he refused to believe my sister was dead. He refused to eat or drink, refused to attend court, and arrested everyone who had contact with my sister. He made them recount the events of that day over and over again. But no matter how we asked, no matter who spoke, the conclusion remained the same. He was the one who murdered my sister. He was the one who doted on my sister and made her fall in love with him. He was the one who changed her attitude when Bai Yueguang returned. He was the one who knew my sister's nature but didn't believe her. Finally, even when faced with a choice between the two, he chose her death. Song Jin was unwilling to accept it, so he issued an order to kill all the palace maids, eunuchs, and guards who were seen or heard that day. The blood spread throughout the palace, soaking the bricks on the ground. It seemed that only in this way could he wash away his sister's blood on his hands. What's even more ridiculous is that the place where Nyuru's portrait used to hang is now hung with his sister's portrait. TSK, disgusting. Song Jin is bloodthirsty, arbitrary, and authoritarian. He is not a wise ruler. The dragon energy accumulated by the dynasties of Dashing was sucked away by his sister and no longer has protection. In order to find his lost love, he begged practitioners in Dashing for a huge sum of money to try to resurrect the imperial concubine who died in the flames. As long as I can resurrect the imperial concubine, I am willing to do anything. He believed everything they said and did everything they asked him to do, but if he failed, he would immediately kill them. The year after we left, natural disasters continued to plague Dashing. However, Song Jin, believing the advice of a Taoist priest, mobilized the entire nation to build the ascending heaven tower, hoping to ascend the tower and seek the help of the heavens to revive his beloved concubine. The cost of building the heavenly tower was enormous, so Song Jin imposed heavy taxes and forced labor, and mobilized troops to attack neighboring small states. General Liang Jingyun, seeing the emperor's incompetence, united 800 princes and launched a rebellion in Sangshan. For a time, starving people were everywhere, corpses littered the fields, and the people exchanged their children for food, utterly uttering chaos. Meanwhile, my sister and I were on a boat along the Huai River. A handsome young man played the guqin, rippling the water. My sister, dressed in a bright red gauze dress, leaned lazily against the window, a piece of fur, patchwork in a chaotic pattern, neatly folded beside her. It was the only thing she had taken from the palace, besides the dragon spirit. "Let me feed you wine." A young man in emerald green, with peach blossom eyes, approached me, offering to feed me. I frowned and took a bite of the peach blossom cake in my hand. "Drink it yourself. I don't like alcohol." My sister raised an eyebrow and chuckled, "My Mian is more interested in food. Didn't you love small yellow croaker before? I ordered it for you. Why haven't you taken a single bite?" I put down the peach blossom cake in my hand and called her, somewhat displeased, sister. She knew I had stopped eating small yellow croaker since leaving Xinjiang, but she still teased me. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. My sister had spent the past 3 years refining the dragon energy within her body. As her cultivation deepened, her features became increasingly beautiful, and her every move was alluring. The courtesan's cheeks flushed as she softly asked my sister, "Madam, although this fur is well made, the color is a mess. It doesn't match your beauty. I got a fine fox fur coat a while ago. If you like it, I'll give it to you, okay?" My sister reached out and caressed his face, her whole body shaking with laughter. "What do you know? This fur is very fine." My sister bit the words "very fine" with great emphasis. The prostitute was so captivated by her smile that he kept feeding her wine and fruit plates. TSK, it was really unbearable to watch. I had no mind for snacks anymore and stood up and left the pleasure boat. I walked along the hull all the way to the deck. The sky and the earth were vast, the water and the sky were one color, and a lost butterfly landed on my shoulder. Gotcha. Seeing no one around, I reached out to catch it, but suddenly felt a chill on the back of my neck. My fingertips loosened, and the butterfly in my palm flew away. I turned my head stiffly, and on another pleasure boat about 7 or 8 meters away stood Liang Jingyun, whom I hadn't seen for 3 years. The air was suddenly quiet. I stood up and wanted to run, but there was no road on the pleasure boat. My pupils shrank, and I left a beam on the deck, turned over, and jumped from the pleasure boat into the cold river water. "Li Mian." Liang Jingyun's uncontrolled roar was heard overhead. I ignored him, swimming underwater towards the river's edge. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed behind me, and water splashed everywhere. It was Liang Jingyun. But he couldn't swim. I hesitated for a moment, and a net covered in talismans descended from the sky, trapping me. When I was pulled out of the water and brought before Liang Jingyun, he looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Mian, you still can't bear to see me die." I raised my eyes, looked at him calmly, and told him the truth. "I turned back because I wanted to watch you drown." Every word pierced my heart. After you cut open my body and killed our child with your own hands, do you think I'd still care about you? His chest heaved violently, then slowly calmed down and forced a pill into my mouth. I didn't struggle but sarcastically said, General Liang, after feeding you the pill, who are you going to cut open my inner core to save? He said nothing, raised his hand, tore off the net, and carried me to the bed. The answer was irrelevant. Mian, I know it's all fake. Since you left, I've thought about every detail of that day countless times, and finally remembered that you had a wound on your face the night before, but it was healed the next day. He took a handkerchief and slowly wiped the water from my hair. You're a cat demon, how could you die so easily? I looked at him sarcastically. Yes, cat demons don't die so easily, so is that why you hurt me so recklessly? Liang Jingyun clutched the handkerchief tightly, staring at me intently. And Yiru is the illegitimate daughter of the king of the Northern Territory, left among the people. The Northern Territory is rich in minerals. Song Jin wants her, and so do I. He has ambitions to unify the world, and so do I. For my ambitions, I can only. I'm sorry for you. He squeezed my hand. But Mian, trust me, I will never let you die. I have a way to remove the inner elixir without killing the demon. I nodded, believing it. Then how did you practice it? Liang Jingyun froze slightly. The look he gave me was slowly filled with the terrifying truth he suspected. I said, when Song Jin first ascended the throne, he used over 200 cat demons from Mount Li to train them, right? You removed their inner elixirs to refine medicine, peeled off their flesh, and buried their bones and blood at the foot of the imperial city, for the people to trample on, to forever protect your great Qing foundation. Why wasn't there a single cat demon in the entire Xinjiang when you rescued Yiru? Because they were all dead. Liang Jingyun, are my people easy to kill? Is their blood hot? When you exploited their kindness, deceived them, and plunged a knife into their bodies, didn't you dream of them chasing you at night? 17 back then, my sister and I went down the mountain in search of an opportunity. Along the Qinhuai River, I, out of play, chased a bird and took the wrong turn. Our journey back to Mount Li took us an extra day. Just one day, and we were homeless. Everywhere was covered in messy footprints, traces of struggle. The entire Mount Li was drenched in blood, and even 3 days and 3 nights of rain couldn't wash it away. I held my tail in my arms, tears mingling with the rain. Sister, we have no home anymore. My sister said, Mian, I'm going down the mountain to seek revenge. Okay, I said. After descending the mountain and entering the palace, my sister was unexpectedly made a noble concubine by Song Jin, and I happened to be brought home by Liang Jingyun. I thought my sister would kill Song Jin, but she didn't. We've lost so many family members, how can just him be enough? They want to trade the Civic Cat clan for a century-old foundation. Then, I will sacrifice all of Dashing to my people. My sister looked at me, rubbed my head, and hesitated to speak. Mian, Liang Jingyun. I said, he's the executioner, he deserves to die. Liang Jingyun, his eyes trembling and red, asked me, so, are you here to seek revenge on us? I reached out and put my arms around his neck. Yes. You and Song Jin, neither of you can escape. 18 On the 9th day of the 7th month of Dashing, Song Jin was to ascend the newly built Ascension Tower and torture Yiru, whom he considered the culprit behind my sister's death, to the heavens. He would offer a sacrifice to the heavens in the hope of resurrecting my sister. Outside the capital, I was pinned to my horse by Liang Jingyun, with a large army of soldiers and generals at my heels. Liang Jingyun tightened his grip on me. Mian, I'll avenge you soon. I didn't even look at him. I simply said, I'd be happier if you were dead. He paused and without another word, he gestured toward the city gates. Heavily besieged, Xinjiang was in chaos. Countless oppressed citizens desperately rushed to the gates, vying to open them. A loyal minister advised Song Jin, Your Majesty, the rebels have entered the palace. We should retreat outside for now and then, return to resurrect the Empress later, okay? Song Jin stood at the gates of Dangtian Tower, and Yiru, pinned down by soldiers, her entire body unrecognizable. If I leave, Susu will be furious when she returns and can't find me. With that, he ascended the Dangtian Tower amid the clamor of knocking at the palace gates. And Yiru was brought up and tied to a rack. 3,360 cuts were made upon her, each one drawing blood but not fatally. Screams continued incessantly. Song Jin lit incense and, word by word, wrote a confession of guilt on a piece of yellow paper. Song Jin, the emperor of the Great Qing dynasty, has been on the throne for 7 years. I have lived a life of extravagance, slaughtered innocent people, imposed taxes, and left the people in dire straits. I have committed countless evil deeds in this life, killing millions for my own selfish desires. I do not ask for mercy from heaven, but only for the chance to see Susu again in my lifetime. Even if death is required, I am willing. I am willing to be sacrificed and subjected to 3,600 cuts of slow slicing. If that is not enough, take my life as well. With these words, he lit the yellow paper and threw it into the cauldron. He waited for 3 breaths, but nothing happened. And Yiru, covered in blood, laughed heartily. "You heartless lunatic, you deserve it." Song Jin knelt on the platform in despair, staring at the cauldron before him. Suddenly, he laughed maniacally. "I'll trade the lifeblood of the Great Qing dynasty in exchange for seeing her again." Before he could finish his words, the platform began to shake violently. In just a few breaths, the towering platform was reduced to rubble. Song Jin was nearly killed by the impact. Covered in dust, blood streamed from his lips, and he looked utterly miserable. The red gauze skirt stopped in front of him. He trembled and raised his head with difficulty. "Susu. You came to see me." I stood far away, watching him reach out to touch my sister, but she took a step back. Song Jin struggled to climb out of the rubble, wanting to touch the person before him to see if she was real. But a pillar had hit his waist, and no matter how he struggled, he couldn't move an inch. "Susu, I know you resent me, but I truly never meant to harm you. Can you forgive me?" The woman in the red dress curled her lips, chuckling softly before shaking her head. "I've never resented you." Song Jin's face lit up, but he heard his sister say word for word, "I hate you." "How could you? How could you hate me?" His eyes flushed red, and for a moment, the almighty emperor seemed reduced to a lowly maggot in the gutter. Tears left 2 streaks of dust on his face. He clutched at the gray patchwork for draped around his sister, as if grasping at straws. It was the patchwork for he had personally shot during a hunting trip, belonging to the strongest civet cats in the tribe, and a gift from him to his sister. "You still have my gift. It was the only one you took when you left. Susu, you still care about me, right?" "No." His sister pressed her face affectionately against the soft fur. "Li Susu, Li Mian Mian, don't those 2 names resemble each other?" Song Jin's face paled instantly. He uttered with difficulty, "Li. Li. Are you also a cat demon?" My sister said nothing, simply staring at him. Song Jin smiled bitterly, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Looking up, he asked my sister, "Susu, after all these past 3 years, have you really never loved me?" I was momentarily lost in thought. Back then, when I'd visited my sister at the palace, she'd asked Song Jin the same question. Now time and space had shifted, and the questioner and the answerer had changed. My sister looked down at him calmly, her red lips slightly parted as she uttered 2 words, decisive and resolute, "Never." Song Jin's breath caught, his eyes vacant. The only reason he was still breathing vanished. Tears streamed down his face, and he spat out mouthfuls of blood. Finally, as my sister's back faded, he closed his eyes forever. The moment her breath ceased behind me, my sister's steps paused, then resumed. I took 2 steps forward and stood beside Song Jin's body, stunned. Liang Jingyun followed and whispered, "Mian Mian, if you want to kill me, I won't hide." I turned to look at him. "Really?" He reached out and hugged me, pressing the sword into my hand. "Mian Mian, I don't blame you. He leaned down and kissed me on the lips. Either you kill me, or I'll tie you to me forever. Mion, you choose. My hand trembled as I gripped the sword. I'd never killed anyone before. Liang Jingyun was taking a gamble on my kindness, a gamble on my inability to kill him, a gamble on my being a mere raccoon slave he'd picked up who only knew how to eat small yellow croaker, a gamble on my heart for him. But I'm a cat demon. The moment the sword clanged to the ground, I saw joy in his eyes. But the next moment, the cat demon's sharp claws pierced his chest. How could it be? How can you still have abilities after taking the medicine? I stared into his eyes and asked calmly, Liang Jingyun, do you think I'll believe you a second time? As he stared in bewilderment, I whispered in his ear, didn't you ask me why I like small yellow croaker? That's because the raccoon cat I once loved was called small yellow croaker. Liang Jingyun spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes reddening as he looked at me. If you ask the same question as Song Jin, I can tell you the same answer. I've never loved you. Everything is just revenge for you. You are the knife my sister and I wield to sever Daxing's lifeline. My love for you is merely a necessary catalyst. Liang Jingyun, an executioner, doesn't deserve to live, nor does he deserve to be loved. You deserve only hell. Liang Jingyun's throat was pumping like a bellows. He tried to speak, but the scene before his eyes only grew darker and darker. Mion. His eyes were filled with tears, and he wanted to call out to me. I suddenly remembered something and squatted down beside him. Liang Jingyun, I hope I won't see you again in my next life. 21 For with the death of rebel leader Liang Jingyun, the rebel alliance fell into internal turmoil, and Daxing was left leaderless and in chaos. On a hilltop outside Beijing, my sister raised her hand and yawned. Daxing's century-long foundation has been shattered. I want to return to Lishan and reunite my tribe. What do you think, Mion? I nodded, holding the small yellow croaker in my mouth. I think everything my sister says is right. My sister reached out and pinched my face. I think Mion is right too. The two of us laughed together. I turned and transformed into two civet cats, riding the wind away. It was a beautiful day with light breeze and clear skies. Just like the day I met him. The round-faced, cat-eyed girl looked at the cat-eared boy with his tail dangling in the water and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Mion, do you like eating small yellow croaker? Yes. The boy twitched his ears shyly, his face flushing. Then I will catch small yellow croaker for you for the rest of my life. Okay. The end of the story.